in a competitive market like the UAE, you need an edge.
Yeah. And the edge cannot be only the years of experience. This is
No.
not an edge. Like,
And it also cannot be, I'm an FP&A manager and I've done FP&A. Yeah, but there's hundreds like you. What else?
yes. And this is what you do. But tell me more about how you do it also.
Yeah.
Like, think of this. Like, I have 10 years of experience in accounting. Fine. What exactly? But many people have many different years of experience in accounting. What you were doing special and how you are doing your daily responsibilities different.
Yeah.
What makes you stand out in as you said, in the UAE, it's very, very competitive market.
Thank you for listening to the podcast thus far. The one favor I would ask, if you're enjoying what you're listening to, is to press the follow and subscribe button on whatever media platform you listen to us, as it helps us grow our network and grow the podcast. So thank you and enjoy the podcast.
Hello, and welcome back to Alchemy Uncensored podcast. We're on our third season, and we promise you that we'll bring in more valuable insights into the financial and tax sectors of the UAE. Today, we've got Hisham ElSaied. Hisham is a chartered MCIPD member, certified coach and trainer with over 18 years of experience in multinational Fortune 500 organizations across the Middle East and Africa region, specializing in building efficient HR systems and also teams. He has delivered over 100 workshops and training sessions to HR professionals and organizations across the GCC region. He is also a frequent guest speaker at conferences and events and certified cultural intelligence facilitator. Lived and worked across 4 continents and worked with Japanese, American, Canadian, and European companies as well. For today's episode, we're going to dive into some very interesting topics, which I'm sure most of our audience will appreciate, around interview processes and best practices for these, as well as AI and the future of selection. And there's no better person than Hisham to dive into these topics.
Thank you, and thank you for having me today. It's my pleasure.
My pleasure as well. How are you getting on today? Hopefully all's good.
Yes, all is good. How about you?
Yeah, very good. It's, I think, going to be a very interesting podcast. I know when we got in touch, I said that I wanted to do something that was not eye-catching, I don't know what's the word, but just to get people involved and engaged. And obviously, being a recruiter, I want to ensure to give a lot of valuable information to, our candidates, our clients. I think this episode is going to focus a lot more on, job seekers and people that are growing in their careers from that side. And I know that AI is a very big topic in the HR world. We both know that. And there's a lot of reasons why this came up. So let's just start first with the interview side of things, right? Because I think that's a very good place to start for people that are maybe interviewing right now, or, maybe they've gotten rejected for whatever role that they were applying for whatever reason it is. And normally, for our audience, they're finance people, and they'd probably get through their hiring manager, like the CFO, quite quickly. Whereas I guess the HR interview is far from technical, right? It's everything but technical.
Yeah.
So just to give a little bit more insight, because you've probably interviewed hundreds of thousands of people across your career, right?
I don't count.
Yeah.
There are so many.
There's so many,
Yeah.
so many different countries, so many different nationalities, etc. So I think your insight will be amazing. So let's just dive right in with the interview process. Like, what do you think are the top 3 things that you do look for whenever you're interviewing a candidate?
That's a good question, because disregarding of the role or the seniority, there are things that I expect all the candidates should do during the interview. First, to be authentic, to be themselves, because the ultimate goal is not to pass the interview and get a job offer. The ultimate goal is to be successful in a job that fits the candidate. So being authentic, being yourself, not trying to pretend that you have something that you don't have is really a key. The other thing is the relevancy as well. How relevant are you for the role, and why you and not anyone else for this role? And the third thing I will say is the culture fit. Some people try to call it culture ads, right? Some hypes that, okay, we don't want to fit, we want someone to add to our culture. Anyways, at the end, it is the culture. Will these people be successful in our organizational culture, will be the add value, will be the able to adapt and build relations and try to work with different people, different seniorities, different functions. So the culture fit is also important.
Yeah, like longevity within the role as well.
Yes.
Maybe they can do the role, but then does it mean that they can stay in the role for like five years, 10 years, or whatever that period of time is, given the culture of the company? Yeah. So I think these 3 points are quite interesting. With your first point being authentic, I think that is interesting because a lot of candidates go into interviews thinking they're being questioned or they're being assessed. And, what I can say about that is, I also interview people every single week, every single day almost, right? And it's really interesting because you'd be surprised to know that probably 95% of people answer questions exactly the same way, which is not possible. Like, it's not possible that, that is what everybody does, for example, right? Whenever that 5% or, of candidates answer it differently, it actually catches my attention and I get really intrigued by that. But it's quite hard, I think, to be authentic because obviously you're going into the interview thinking that you're being assessed and you're being judged.
Yeah.
You know?
That's also a mindset that I will say needs to be changed because it's a two-way communication. You are being assessed, that's a fact. We cannot deny that. And you are in a pool of candidates who are not, you're not the only one. It's a competition and you try to show your best. So this is a factor that we cannot ignore. But it's also a chance for the candidate to evaluate whether this job and organization is the right fit for them or not. So some candidates don't ask many questions they just respond, as you're saying, trying to get the right answer. But when it comes to the part they are questioning, to your point, it's 90% the same questions, like what's the next step? When can I hear back from you? But I don't see much people trying to really understand more about the culture and the organization and the people they will be working with, the structure, the growth of the role, the career development, the opportunities of training, something like all this. And believe me, will not make them score less or look bad. I'm talking from the HR side. No, we will love people to ask us more questions. We will see this curiosity of trying, to know and understand and more. We will see it positively, not negatively as, are you interviewing me or I interview you? No, it's two ways. And we love it to be two ways.
Yeah. I think the key thing here is preparation, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Like you need to be prepared.
Yes.
You go into the interview, you need to be prepared. You need to know who you're meeting, what they stand for, something about themselves as well, like just understand who you're going to be speaking to and come prepared because, I always say as well, bring a notebook with you. That's fine because, maybe you might forget some of the questions, as you're going through the interview process because it can get quite overwhelming. You're answering all these questions and you can forget, for example, what you wanted to ask. I have a lot of candidates that say, I didn't get the chance to ask what I wanted to say, right? Yeah. Or wanted to ask. So bring a notebook and write these questions down as well because I do think that it's quite important. Like the purpose of the interview is not just to assess you. You're right. It's about a two-way street. Yeah. Can we work together is the biggest thing here, right?
Yes.
Now, when you say regarding the relevance of the role, what do you mean by that? Do you mean like they have done the role before or?
No, I'm mainly talking about why these people are the best fit for the role, how relevant their experience, skills, and qualifications are fitting the role. So if we need someone who, for example, speaks 3 languages, so check, do you speak these 3 languages? Is it something that you can develop? If one of the skills and competencies is a particular software or a particular certification or do you have this thing? So make sure that you are really fit for the role and if there is gap, what is the gap? And don't be scared if there is a gap. That's normal. You can go and say, because also, and I'm sure you see this more than me, that people are always saying yes for everything. Do you know this? Yes. Have you done this? Yes. Have you done this? And then you realize after going to the technical, because both of us are on the HR side. We don't do the technical evaluation. And when they say yes, and you get the feedback from the hiring manager that he said no. So my advice is no. Don't say yes for something that you don't know or assuming that you will learn it. And if this is your intention, say it. Say openly, I don't know it, but I'm willing to learn it. And that's fine. At the end, no one can have 100% 100% of the requirements, or very few will have 100%. If you have 80 or 90% and you have a gap in this 10-15%, just be open and honest about it and say, yeah, this is what I have, this is what I can add to the role, and this is where my added value will come, and this is what I'm missing, and I'm willing to develop on it.
Yeah. I guess in recruitment, we are taught how to ask powerful questions, right? So we're always taught to ask open-ended questions. So for example, for me, if I'm looking for a particular software, I'll probably ask the question of what software experience do you have? I would never say, do you have SAP
Yes or no?
experience? Yeah. Because then you're literally giving them the answer of what you're looking for. So I try to do that a lot more. And, you know, through the conversations with candidates, I'd say that there's a lot of questioning ways and different things and different ways to get information out of people. Now, without giving too much away, because obviously you want people to still, you know, you want to see their reaction and you want to see how they respond to questions. Like, what would you say is like 2 questions? I don't want to call them trick questions, but 2 questions that, you know, you'd normally ask to, you know, test something about the candidate, or maybe they're difficult questions to answer, and it tells you a lot about the candidate.
Well, I usually don't go with the script of questions or a preset of question. It mainly goes with the flow, you know, and it depends from one candidate to another. And what we might call a tricky question for someone might be a straightforward for the other, or the other way around. You might think that you're asking a straightforward question and then the candidate struggle. And you know, it's like you try to uncover layers of personality in a very short time, and hence the challenge of the interview. So you need to make the candidates feel at ease, and they open up and they start uncovering and sharing their real personality. We want to know who is behind this resume. We don't want the experiences on the resume, like the task and responsibilities and things they are doing in day-to-day and the responsibility. The purpose of the interview is not to repeat these things again or tell me what you do, and they start reading whatever. We need to know who is behind this resume. What's the personality behind this resume? Because the CV analysis and the other things can be done by algorithms and AI, and that's also hype now. But it's more about we need to know the person. We need to know what kind of person behind. What is their culture? What do they like? What they do? What they don't like? Where they will fit and what will make them angry. You know, it's a relationship at the end. The employment is a relationship, and before this commitment to a long-term relationship, we want to uncover the person applying for that role.
Yeah. I've had an interesting scenario where a candidate actually landed a job because of brutal honesty, like absolute brutal honesty, as in, listen, I'm tired, that stuff I don't do, you know, and with particular type of personalities, that works. With particular hiring managers, that works. Just be completely honest and direct, right? But, you know, from my side, I always say that, you know, try to, again, it's back to the authenticity part of things, and just to say what you would and wouldn't do in that role. If you don't want to commute, then don't commute. Say, I'm not going to commute. I'm not going to do that. And, you know, there's no point of, you know, going through a whole process and at the very end saying, oh, actually, I'm not going to take it because of that, right? The interview is your chance.
Yeah.
It's your chance to uncover all of these things as well. I guess the purpose of my question before regarding like some questions that you might ask is because I've also realized that some of my clients, like especially with the qualification CIPD qualification, I don't have it, obviously. I don't know how to. There is, I think, there's different levels and different things. And obviously you're taught different questioning ways and different things to like say during the interview and stuff like that. And I've seen a lot of my clients that have that ask quite interesting behavioral questions, let's say, you know, like how would you deal with a conflict, let's say, or something like that.
Tell me about a time. That starts with tell me about a time when you had to deal with a conflict or something like that, right?
Yeah.
It's also scenario-based questions.
Yeah. Do you ask these kind of questions, or?
If needed, if necessarily, if it's relevant, again, if it's relevant to the role. But if I'm interviewing someone who will not need to manage conflicts, if I create a scenario of conflicts, it might be nice to know if he can, but it won't be relevant to what I need. So you have a set of competencies you are trying to assess against or try to measure against, and based on these competencies you start designing what questions you will have, and then it goes with the flow. So they might have an answer, and this answer gives you
a question, another question.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I mean, my favorite one, I'm not gonna lie, I use it every single time though. I might be giving away too much, but I always ask, you know, in 2 to 5 minutes, tell me about what you've been doing.
Yeah.
I love that question, right? Because you're leaving it open. Some people start, and it's quite interesting because you can see how people, where they start from. Some people start from right now and go backwards. Some people start from the beginning and go upwards. Some people just talk about the last 2 roles, for example, or the last role that they've done, and then they leave everything else. But the reason why I think it's interesting is because I also test whether they have attention to detail.
Yes.
Right? Like, did you actually listen to my question? I said 5 minutes. Some candidates go on for like 10, 15 minutes. That's not the purpose. I'm not a CFO. All these things, like I can already see it on your CV.
Yes.
I'm trying to test whether you can listen and hear instruction and follow it properly, right?
Yes.
And, at the same time, try to get to know about that person, because 2 to 5 minutes, it's quite a precise time, right? And the purpose is, I don't want you to waffle on. I want you to tell me what you think is important to put in that.
For me to know, yes. What's important for me to know.
Exactly.
I can speak 10, 15 minutes about things that's not relevant. Again, it's relevancy to the role. And talking about powerful questions, there is one that we use always in coaching. We use also in interviews, but it's mainly for coaching. And it's very simple, but it opens a lot of doors. Like, when you ask a question, a follow-up one can be, what else? Just as simple as what else.
Very interesting. I feel like you bring up a lot of things from that as well.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah. I'm going to start using this. I think it's
like you'll ask them why you want to have this role or why you want to leave, and they will answer. Just pause for 2 seconds and ask what else. It will open doors within themselves. They will start thinking maybe of things that they didn't think about before.
Yeah. You just made me think about also another question, which is like, and I always ask it as well, because obviously you want to find out, whenever we are asking about why you're leaving your current role, we're not trying to,
challenge it.
Challenge it. No, I just want to make sure that whatever that you feel is missing
is not also missing.
Is not also missing here, that I can't give you, because then you'll start interviewing elsewhere, and then you won't, you won't stay.
Yes.
So that is the purpose of it. And to answer it in all honesty, because you also don't want to repeat the same thing again, do you? So I always ask this question about, what, I don't ask them why they're leaving. I ask them what's missing, what's making you.
What are you looking for
why
that's
are you
not
here?
in your existing role?
Exactly. Yeah. Why are you here? Why are you speaking to me?
Yeah.
What's missing? What do you need?
Yeah.
And, in the beginning, people always give you vague answers, like a better opportunity. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, better opportunity can vary from one person to another. Is it a better financial? It's a better career growth. It's a better culture. It's closer to my home. It's a remote. The better opportunity is not a fixed, defined thing that everyone agrees to as a better opportunity.
Yeah, very vague.
Yeah.
So I always drill down on that, as in what is a better opportunity for you? What's missing right now that you want, that you need, right?
Yeah.
So I think these are all very powerful questions. So given you've done a lot of interviews, obviously, I think also you've done a lot of interviews with different professions. I've only interviewed finance professionals, unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know. But you've, interviewed a lot of different types of people. Can you give me an example of an interview that just went south, it was not good, and why? Why, in your opinion, it just went south? Or if I can rephrase the question, kind of what are mistakes people should be avoiding in kind of these interviews?
Well, after 18 years of interviewing, I faced a lot of weird situations, but I think one of the most strange situations that I faced and this was all days before the Microsoft Teams or Zoom, or it was an in-person face-to-face interview, and the first time you see how the candidate look like is when you meet them and when they come to your premises, right? So we started the interview and normal looking at the CV, break the ice, and then starting to gather a conversation, tell me more about your experience and what you're doing. And I noticed a lot of discrepancies between what I am seeing and what the candidate is telling. And not discrepancies in terms of dates or months. It's not the same employers. It's not the same job title. So I had to do something that I rarely do. And I interrupted the candidate and I asked them, this is your CV. Maybe I printed the wrong one or something. And he said, it's not wrong, but it's not my CV because it's not me. And then I was shocked. And I asked him, what do you mean? He said, I have a French CV and I believed it will give me more opportunity for getting the interview. And I used this opportunity to present myself, my real self. I'm not the one on the CV. It's a CV of a friend. And this was shocking. We were talking about authenticity, and this can be lying on the other end of the spectrum of
Oh my
authenticity.
God. Oh my God. And what did you do then? Did you just end the interview or did you
Well,
continue?
I continued, and I told him that, okay, I don't have your real CV, but then tell me more about yourself. But of course, for me, this was a very big red flag. Like, if you start by taking the identity of someone else for the interview, so I don't know what they can do when they if they join the company, right?
One word comes to my mind. He's brave, that's for sure. He or she, very brave, because you'll be found out. I mean, like, and obviously he or she didn't try to
No, they didn't try to
hide it
manipulate it.
even.
No. They
When they
said
were
that they
there.
used the CV to win the interview opportunity, and they used the interview opportunity to introduce their actual experience.
Wow. Yeah, that's really crazy. I can't imagine that. I don't know what I would do. I would just be like, okay.
So it was shocking, and I was much younger, and it was a long time ago, and before all this technological advancements of
Yeah.
screening and LinkedIn, even before LinkedIn profiles, where you can go and check, okay, this is the same person, or
I'm
how
assuming
does it look like?
he or she didn't get the job, obviously. So.
No, not to the next level of interviews.
So look then with screening and on the topic about LinkedIn and all that kind of stuff as well. Obviously, there's a lot of advancements and tools, and I think this is going to be really interesting for candidates and job seekers because AI is not just infiltrating or expanding and exploding in finance and in engineering and in all these different fields. It's also happening in the HR function. It's also happening in talent acquisition and things like this.
Yes.
And, people are already, seeing the impacts of LinkedIn and how many people are applying for jobs, etc. Right? So AI is going to have a huge role now in the selection process and in the way that things are going, I guess from that point of view. So what do you see happening? Like what kind of tools are being used, and how do you see AI really coming into the HR function now?
Yeah, so the AI will cause disruption similar to the disruption happened by the internet. So it will change the way we work, we live, and we shop, and we travel, and everything. And this is happening right now, and in a very fast pace, because the technology advancements is much more faster than, like, internet took years and years to really take over the old documents and mails in the workplace. But AI is doing this in matters of months and sometimes even weeks, and technology is really moving very, very fast. And HR is not an exception, and talent acquisition is not an exception. It's also one of the fields where the AI and the machine will start having a huge impact. And this started many years ago. I know that the hype around AI came with the ChatGPT launch in 2022, but the algorithms is shaping the way we work since very long time, since the first applicant tracking systems of ATS, and they match the job description with the CV and try to find exact words. So the algorithms have been there for a long time. What's now developing, it's not only analyzing documents, it's not only finding exact matches, it's analyzing people's sentiments, people feelings in the interview, verbal and non-verbal cues. They are now being like a gatekeeper for HR by filtering and removing candidates that does not fit. The AI is good in dealing with big quantity of data in a short time, and they do this better than we do. But also on the other side, there are things that they don't do as we do. Like when we talk about complex emotions, skills like emotional intelligence, sympathy, jobs like counseling or coaching, or things that when you deal with multiple cultures. So on this field, the human part is definitely is still needed. But on dealing with big amount of data, and to your point of the quantity of applicants on LinkedIn, this is where ATS has been playing a role, and it's now magnified, and it will be much, much faster than we expected before. But still, there will be a side that it cannot be replicated by humans. And talking to the candidates who are now in the job market, this is something that they also should be aware of, and they keep their mind of. There is a very good book by Bernard Marr. It's called Future Skills. It was released in 2021, I think, and it's talking about what are the skills needed in the job market in the future versus what's needed a few years ago. And these are completely different skills. So the most needed skills are critical thinking, problem solving, emotional intelligence, how you deal with others, like the soft side of things. Cultural intelligence was on his list as well, how you deal with multiple culture, how you be flexible as a leader or as an employee when you deal with people from cultural background. So with all these advancements in the AI and machine learning, this is the part that we will still need a human being to be doing and cannot be replicated or replaced by AI.
So let's drill down a little bit about ATS, because I get this question a lot, is my CV getting through the ATS system, whatever. In all honesty, we don't use an ATS system because I actually feel like, especially with ChatGPT and with AI, people can read a job description or, drag and drop a job description and make
Create
a
a
CV
CV.
exactly
Yeah.
identical. And, that is a different way as well of like identity theft, basically, right? But it's a
Yes.
different form of that. But I don't use it because I feel like it's going to take away a lot from, let's say, maybe it will miss out on some candidates or whatever it is. So can we talk about how this ATS like platforms, how they actually work? Like, what do they actually do? And then the evolution of that into AI, and what's that going to be doing or already doing now and into the future as well?
Yeah, well, the good thing that the good thing about your question is that at least until now we still know what the ATS is doing. But the scary part is we might not know this in the future. But at least for now, the good part, we know
Yeah.
what ATS is still doing. They try to analyze the experience of the candidate and to match it to the requirements of the job, and not only the text, but now even video interviews. And the scary thing is that we are very close of not being able to identify whether we are interviewed by a person or by an AI. We are very close. I saw things that's really very difficult to differentiate. You still can if you really pay a close attention, but this means that we are not far from having, like, I'm sitting
Like
with
what?
Uyam.
Like a bot, like on the other side
Yeah,
of the.
it's a video of a human being sitting in an office with a virtual background, like the same when we join our Teams or
Calls,
Zoom's
yeah.
call, but it's not a person, and they are interactive, and they will start by breaking the ice, asking about you, the weather, how what did you do today, what are your plans for the weekend, and they respond to based on what you are saying. It's not like reading a set of questions like our image of that's a machine, so it will be like this is first questions. No, they are responsive and they are adapting to what you are saying. And we are not very close from that. We're not very far, sorry, from being unable to identify whether this is a hiring manager or an HR person
Wow.
or an AI. And sometimes it can be in the background. So in a normal Teams or Zoom's meeting now, there are add-ons and there are extensions that add it to the meeting, and they send you an AI analyzed report. So you are talking to a human, that's fine. This is a real person talking to you, but there is an AI in the background that's analyzing and, analyzing what you're saying, analyzing your tone, your fluency in language, your confidence level, your stress levels, how stressed you are, your body language and everything, and send the report to the hiring manager. So we can safely say that they are now sitting in the panel of the interview.
That's scary,
Why? It is scary, but it's reality. So we have to start accepting it and dealing with it, right?
Yeah. Because I guess, like, I don't know whether you know the technicalities of it, but how would it, for example, detect the stress level of the person? Is it just like their body language, or is it further than that? Like,
It's everything. So it's the tone, the voice, the verbal cues, the non-verbal cues. Like when I do like this, I might be a bit stressed. This is like a stressed smile versus a natural smile. So, and they do use a lot of data points, and based on these data points, they send the analysis. And these things are developing very, very fast. So the things that was in the market in December 24 is not the things in the market in Jan 25, which is 1 month. Like the advancements is really it's really quick.
yeah, wow, that's very, very interesting. I've had this discussion a few times. I've had one of my contacts ask about, how we can use AI in selection process and video interviews and things like that. And he asked me a question. It's like, what do you wish an AI could do? He was asking me this question, right? And I was saying, it's really interesting because I feel like, especially for us, like we are recruiting in the UAE, a lot of it is about chemistry. And this is in all honesty, a lot of it is about chemistry. It's less about your technical knowledge and it's more about the chemistry with the hiring manager, right? And that sometimes can be biased,
Yes.
you know, but the reality is that that chemistry can allow for performance. It can allow for better performance, better numbers, etc.
Relationship.
So what do you think about like digital discrimination? Like how would that fit in with AI? Like would it be discriminating against people or would it not? Would it, there's a big question around, would AI be a bias, would it have a
Biased.
bias or not?
Yeah. That's a very, very interesting question, and it reminded me a story of Tay. Tay is a chatbot that was launched by Microsoft in 2016, and the goal of it was to mimic the or the character of a teenager on Twitter that start tweeting things, and it was trained to develop in a friendly manner and respond in a nice way and make relationships, but it was based on machine learning, so the machine will keep developing and learning themselves. And after some time, the Tay, let's deal with it as a person, Tay started getting offensive tweets and offensive comments, and this is what the data that fed to him. So it changed his attitude and he started being offensive and he started, being not nice,
Aggressive
against
and-
what it was trained for in the
Yeah.
beginning, and it had to be taken offline. And I'm telling you the story and you might think that this was a process of months or something. This was 16 hours. The whole story was 16 hours from the time it was launched to the time it turned to be offensive and not respectful, and they had to
What?
take them offline.
What are
only
people
16
saying in 16 hours? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, that's a good question. But the other question that we should look at is how fast this machine can learn. If they changed the whole attitude and whatever they were trained to do in only 16 hours, and they turn it into a completely different character based on the data they get, that's scary. The speed of machine learning is scary. To back your question of discrimination, it's not necessarily that we feed them discriminative ideas in the initial setting, but if their surrounding environment is, let's say, discriminative or have a certain bias, they will learn from the environment. The machine will learn from the environment. And as I was saying before, we know why Tay was not successful. This was 2016. In the future, we might not know how the algorithm work. We might not know how they develop their consciousness. We might not know what source of data they are being fed. Before, we were feeding them something and analyzing what they are getting, but now it's happening in the background. It's happening in a black box, and that's very scary. And
Yeah.
that's one of the ethical considerations of using AI.
Yeah, yeah. So how do you see this translating now in the HR function? Like for you, like I would ask you this question. Maybe there's not a direct answer, but are you for? Are you against? Would you use it? Would you not use it? Are you using it?
I'm using it definitely, and it will be there in all the aspects of life, and we cannot try. Otherwise, we will be delayed if we're not using the latest technology. It's a technology, so I'm using it, but how and where and when we are using it is the question that we should ask. The AI are very efficient in dealing, the agents in general, they're very efficient dealing with large amount of data in data analysis. So if you ask it an AI to write you an essay about the history of the world from the 18th century BC to now, they will do it in 2 minutes, and they will do it much, much better than you, for sure. And you will spend weeks, but you will not get the same accuracy and quality and stuff. But until now, with all this technology around, we don't have an AI agent or an AI bot that can take the dishes from the sink and put them in a dishwasher. And there is nothing coming soon in this era. You might think that it's a very simple task, just taking the dishes and put them in the dishwasher and put it on. No, it's very complex thing for the AI. So AI is trained to deal with data, not with tasks, not with responsibilities. They are not actual humans. They do not match the human intelligence. They are smart in dealing with very big amount of data in a short amount of time. And they are efficient in this. And this is how we should use them. They are a tool for us. They should save us time and effort. They are not here to replace the human. They are not here to take away their jobs. Definitely the job nature will change and the job market will change. But we don't expect that the AI will make everyone sitting at home and it's only AI working. There still needs to be human. The human need to be. It's just a different set of skills that the people in the marketplace should have and acquire.
I recently went to like some AI summit thing that was actually for finance, but a few things that were discussed were quite interesting. So one of them was that the guy was saying, if you're not using AI, you're already late.
Yeah.
You're
for
already
sure.
late, you're going to be playing catch up. And then the second thing that he was saying was around how you should view AI. And AI is like you've just hired someone on your team and they are the smartest, fastest colleague you could have on your team. And you need to use their power to, build up and grow and things like that. They will, you need to give them those tasks, these mundane tasks that you don't really want to do, and they'll do it 10 times better and they'll never complain. Like
Yes. Yes,
you know?
yes, yes. That's the actual utility of AI. So you can give them something like a huge amount of data and ask them to sort them. They will do them better, and this is something that you shouldn't be wasting your time doing it with an agent or, as you said, I like this team member
Yeah.
that you have that can do this
It's
for
like
you
an
and more efficient
PA,
than you.
or it's
Yeah.
like someone that's on your team. So you're delegating all these tasks to give you all this, reports or, all these data
Analysis,
analysis,
yes.
etc.
Yes.
And I think that that's a very interesting way of looking at it,
At it,
rather
yes.
than, oh, AI is here to take my job. No, I've just hired someone
No.
amazing on my team. Oh my God, they're so smart. They remember everything. They are so fast.
They're so
you
fast.
know, like
and efficient.
very efficient.
Yes.
Isn't that the dream hire?
Yes.
Like that is the dream hire, right? So
Yeah. No, they will not take our jobs, but surely they will decide if we will have a job or not, because they are part of the selection as we
Yeah.
were speaking.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how do you think that sits? Like, I had also a conversation with someone, obviously, especially senior talent, right? And how they would feel about being interviewed by an AI. Do you think that there's a place for that, or do you think or that goes back to your question about how and when and where we use it and for what purpose we use it? So if we're talking about interviews, like, do you think that this is going to be something that will be incorporated in senior roles or kind of avoided?
Well, they are there. As I was saying, you might not see them in the interview, but they are there. There might be an AI on the panel in the background running as an extension that you don't see. But do they make the final selection? At least for now, the time we are speaking, no. The final decision is still, and I hope it will continue, be done by an actual human being deciding who is the best fit for the role. But they are definitely being used on screening, on shortlisting, on analyzing the either resumes or videos or verbal and non-verbal cues and all things we talked about. They are used, but the final selection, back to the chemistry, relationships, and all this, that still, and I don't think soon can be replaced by AI. This is a human being that needs to take the final
Agreed.
decision. Yes.
Agreed. Yeah, I think for us, we don't really use a lot, not too much. I think sometimes we do, but for the majority of the time, because we're quite specialist agency, right?
Yeah.
I swift through a CV in 2 seconds, right? And like I pick out all the information I need because I see hundreds and I can, pick out everything that I need to see. And then once I speak to the candidate, I get all the information I need,
In
right?
15 minutes.
In 15 minutes, done,
Yeah.
and I can make a decision. And the
Yeah.
thing is that sometimes also this person or this candidate might not fit for a specific role, but then they would fit for another role, right? Somewhere else. And only I can make that visualization, because for me, I always say, if I cannot see you working with the hiring manager or like imagine that like kind of fit, then it just wouldn't work, right? But it could work with a different hiring manager. And, I think that this is really, really important, especially for job seekers, because if you look at the way that recruitment processes, especially like, with recruitment agencies, has developed over the years, initially with no internet, no LinkedIn, none of that, I remember being told a story that, recruiters back in the day had to go to the accounting qualification bodies on the day that they're about to announce the newly qualified accountants, like whether that's ACCA or whatever, and quickly go and take their names and go and speak to them and things like that so that they're able to place them in the jobs, right? And obviously when LinkedIn came along, a lot of people were saying, oh, recruiters' jobs are going to be gone.
Yeah.
It only fueled us. It only made things a lot easier.
Yes, AI is the same.
And I think AI will definitely
Yeah.
be the same.
Yeah.
But this is key, I think, for people to understand, because, if at some point in the next like 10, 15, 20 years, whatever, you are going to be a job seeker at some point or look for roles. These are things that you need to keep on top of, because you need to know about, how the system works. What are the things that you could do that can help in the process and things. Because it is definitely changing, and it's important to keep on top of it, I think.
Yeah, and also how to keep these things working for you, not working against you. So if they are part of the selection, you need to understand how these things are working.
Yeah.
So you don't want them as on the other side. You want them in your side, as you were saying. You want them as a tool, as a team member, as someone who support you, but not someone who will work against you or prevent you from getting a job.
Yeah. Yeah. So just to end then, what is, I don't know, one piece of advice that you would give to people, candidates or someone that's looking for a job right now, about the topic we just discussed?
The one piece of advice is people to think very well about their competitive advantage. What make them unique? What is their unique selling point? The market is very competitive and there are a lot of candidates. And when I ask this question of what's your unique selling point or what makes you different, sometimes I get answers like I have 10 years of experience, but that's not a unique selling point, because people have 12 or 15, and then this will not make you, stand out in the market. So think of it as you as a product, why people will go to you and not to go to anyone else. And it's not an easy question. It might need reflection and thinking of people to go back and try to develop their self-awareness and know more better about themselves, about the skills and about the set of skills required in the market versus the ones they have, and what really makes them stand out. So if it's one thing that I will advise is this: just think many times of why you and why not anyone else.
That's a very good question, by the way. You need an edge.
You need an edge.
In a competitive market like the UAE, you need an edge.
Yeah. And the edge cannot be only the years of experience. This is not an edge.
And it also cannot be, I'm an FP&A manager and I've done FP&A. Yeah, but there's hundreds like you. What else?
Yes. And this is what you do. But tell me more about how you do it also.
Yeah.
Like, think of this. Like, I have 10 years of experience in accounting. Fine. What exactly? But many people have many different years of experience in account. What you were doing special, and how you are doing your daily responsibilities different.
Yeah.
What makes you stand out in as you said, in the UAE, it's very, very competitive market.
Yeah, extremely competitive. And I'd say especially for candidates that are outside the region trying to come in, right?
Yes.
Because, I always say to them, you need to figure out all the things that's stopping you, what your competitors have in the market, and how you're going to have an edge above them, right? So, for example, if your notice period is 3 months, there's someone here with 1 month's notice period or immediately available, right? If you're saying, I worked in a big financial market, there's a lot of candidates here also that worked in big financial markets. So what else about you that is different, right? And I think that that's a very powerful thing to think about. And it's also not easy to answer, and it takes a lot of self-reflection over many years, by the way, to figure that out as well.
And it keeps changing. Your competitive edge is not the same 5 years ago, not the same today, 5 years from now. Your competitive edge should be changing with the edge required in the market. And this is back to the question of the relevancy of set of skills.
100%. Well, look, thanks a lot for that. I think that was very informative. I guess, just to highlight the episodes and conclusions, there are many challenges and changes that are coming through to the HR function and the recruitment world. And I think people need to be prepared for that, because it is coming. We can't run away from it. So we hope you enjoyed this episode, and make sure to subscribe to our podcast, and see you on our next episode. Thanks, Hisham.
Thank you.